And I wish that once they would have, like, whenever my documentary for all of my heinous crimes comes out and they talk about my video game addiction, I hope they have the fucking balls to put up Crusader Kings 2 and the little
The shitty
Excel
little.
spreadsheet that video game. I can be like, they changed him as I'm left clicking every 30 seconds as nothing happens.
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week, we talk Falwells and fornication in God Forbid. Before we, hold on, I'm checking my notes, scrolling down. Examine cuck theory. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. This is our Christmas episode. I know we've been gone for 2 months, but we've been busy, but we have brought you a special treat.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be special.
I'm so excited to talk about this because this documentary is absolutely batshit. And also, it starts with like an amazing quote that I'm so excited for us to discuss more than anything else.
It's really good. And I mean, I think longtime listeners will understand why we're so excited about this. We have a long history of hating Jerry Falwell and the Falwell family. And we actually did one of our very few live coverage after, must record episodes when this story broke originally in, I think, 2021. So we did our Fall of Falwell episode where we talked about how the scandal that eventually led to Falwell losing his presidency at Liberty University. But Hulu has gone a little bit into more detail than we did then, actually going to speak with Giancarlo Granda, the man who is kind of at the center of the big cheating scandal. Not cheating scandal. This was all very consensual. But they've done quite an interesting job of dramatizing the scandal, and I think it'll be fun for us to talk about.
It's definitely not going to be boring. I thought I was kind of worried we weren't going to learn anything, but it's just there's something different about hearing it in someone's own words versus reading about it.
And there's also something about like a random 60-year-old New Yorker coming in every once in a while to be like, he was balls deep in which is really great.
So I watched this about a month ago, so I'm a little hazy, but I do remember the weird investigator who's just like, oh yeah, he was super, super horny all the time. Like, who was that guy?
Falwell loved watching his wife get dick down. And
Yes.
It's like, dude, I know that this is like MA and that we can be a little raunchy. You're making me uncomfortable.
There was nobody more excited for this than this narrator guy. I think, is it Mark Ebner is the guy?
I think that's it. I could not figure out. Okay, audience, I'm gonna be honest with you. We were gonna watch a different movie, a Christmas movie, but I don't do good at reading reading stuff or comprehending what I read or understanding what's happening. So I watched this documentary and am now forcing our co-host to do this instead of our intended Christmas episode. So this is very fresh on my mind, and I apologize for you guys, which it might not be.
I watched this a month ago, so.
But yeah, no. So this doc starts with Giancarlo Granda, or it starts with this quote. Josh, do you want to explain what the quote is?
Yeah, so I'm going to be paraphrasing here because I didn't write it down. It's that any movement that starts in America either ends up as a cult, a sham, or a corporation. And I also want to say that is what eventually will happen with us once this podcast is over. One of us will start a corporation, one of us will start a cult, one of us will start a sham, and I think you all know which is which.
No, let's spell it out to the audience because
No,
I feel
Josh,
like
yeah. What do you think? Who do you think is going to start?
It's obviously Aaron starting a cult because of the he's the heart of the podcast. Michael's starting a corporation because he's legally blonde, and I am obviously going to be selling sham wows on the side of the road when this empire falls apart.
I disagree. I think Michael is absolutely cult leader material. Michael has many times stated his desire to start a cult. And Josh, you actually study and teach finance, so I feel like corporation is much better for you. But me with my medical background, I think, I'm doing the racket, right? I'm selling people like weird fucking dick pills or whatever.
You've heard of Dr. Oz, Dr. Aaron.
Yeah. Hit me up.
And he is going to start a career in politics in, Ohio? Same thing.
No, I do not want to be anywhere remotely close to J.D. Vance. Thank you for that.
But what a wonderful quote. And that that quote's kind of great to tell you exactly what this is going to be about, because the Falwell family is all of those. I don't know if we want to go chronological order or just it's been so long for you guys, so if we want to just bounce around on the big points that we really want to talk about, whatever ways you guys think is best to kind of go about this.
Yeah, I mean, let's just hit the interesting stuff. I think it starts right with Giancarlo Granda, who, is the young man at the center of this, but he and his sister play a prominent role in the doc, which I think is very interesting. But basically it just kind of tells the story about how Giancarlo was working as a pool boy, at this hotel when he just, randomly meets Becky Falwell. She kind of calls him over and is like, hey, they hit it off, and she's like, hey, do you want to come to my hotel room? And my husband wants to, watch. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great. This is normal. And from there, he starts building his relationship with the Falwells. They invest a lot of, they try to help him start a career in real estate. And then he gets in trouble with some shady characters. And then I believe his relationship with Becky gets really weird because he tries to break it off with her, and she is, not having it. They try to extort him in a lot of ways. They try to use their money to financially abuse him. He gets into trouble with another family that he's trying to invest in, the Fernandezes. This Miami hostel, all the time they're just kind of financially abusing him. He meets Donald Trump at some point, which is wild. But it all starts to, he goes to a dark place. He feels like he's never going to get out of this, but then he sort of changes his mind and tries to bring the story out, and then he just decides hey, fuck you all, I'm taking you all down with me. And you have to kind of give it up to Giancarlo. I think he kind of sucks, especially some of the political opinions he espouses, I think, are quite bad.
Yeah, to say the least.
I think, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for Giancarlo Granda. I understand wanting to hook up with an attractive woman, but all the other stuff, hey man, you but at the same time, I do feel bad that he got into this spiral and the Falwells absolutely exploited him, but it is just a bonkers story.
There's so much in this where there are little details in it that I absolutely love. In the very beginning of this documentary, they're talking about Giancarlo, who this guy is, and he was I went to a Catholic high school. I was a great kid until the dangers of video games.
Do you all know what video game he's playing in this shot? Because I wrote it down.
No.
It's specifically Call of Duty World at War from 2008. And I know that because when I was in the 8th grade, I played the shit out of that game. And I was like, yeah, of course. Of course this kid in 2012 would be playing a 4-year-old Call of Duty.
And I wish that once they would have, whenever my documentary for all of my heinous crimes comes out and they talk about my video game addiction, I hope they have the fucking balls to put up Crusader Kings 2 and the little...
the shitty
Excel
little...
spreadsheet that's that video game. I can be it changed him as I'm left clicking every 30 seconds as nothing happens. But I love his sister in this documentary because the amount of times she's wow, you're really making a fucked up decision. Don't do that. And then she's like, that was a fucked up decision. He shouldn't have done that.
Every family has one of these siblings, the one that makes bad decisions and the other that's like, well, that's a choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a moment where she said that he would go and do like crazy things and text her his location. Just like 8 examples of like Michael doing not nearly as crazy things, but doing things and just being like, "Hey, just letting you know I'm here." And that's good sibling. That's good siblings.
Also, that's just good, like, this world etiquette to just text someone you know your location.
Yeah. There's one thing I felt like terribly uncomfortable about in the doc.
Just
And
one?
okay, listen, the whole thing is bad, but like in that's like aside from the story, which is they have, aside from the Grandas who are, playing themselves, they have like actors playing the Falwells, and they sync the actor's voice, like narration, to the actor's lips. So like they have the words that are in like the various texts that and the narration that's going on in the doc, but like synced with the actor's voice, so it looks like they're lip syncing in a really weird way, and it makes me very uncomfortable, and I hated it.
It was kind of the worst.
There's also where the actors play like a big role in the beginning, and I'd say like in the end they show up again. But there's this one scene that they play out. After this, we're gonna have an entire segment called "Crazy Cuck Shit" that Falwell did that isn't just cuckoldry. But there's at one point where Giancarlo's in bed next to Becky Falwell, and he turns and he's like, she was just staring at me. And I don't know what instructions they gave that actress, but it was the most frightening thing I've ever seen in my end. If I was him, I would have just started screaming.
I mean, I don't want to, I do actually want to demonize Becky Falwell. I don't want to. I don't want it to be a misogyny thing, though. I just want it to be, I think she's a fucking creep thing. But like her behavior, as described in this documentary, is like ghoulish in a way that like, or I don't know, right? Because like Jerry Jr., of course, right? Like he sucks because he's doing financial abuse and he's enabling his wife to do her weird fantasy, but like. From Becky, her perspective seems like it truly is like a schoolgirl, like somebody who has never been in a relationship that she's wanted before. And the ways in which that she is like she's like just texting pages and pages to Giancarlo, just being like, "Oh, I love you so much. I can't wait for you to come over." She left a review on TripAdvisor that's like, "Oh, Giancarlo did an amazing job setting up our bed," and texting him like scandalous pictures all the time, just like in a weird like. I almost feel bad for her because it does very much seem like she just kind of married a guy that she knew could, provide her a stable life, but also like maybe she didn't like, really like him as a person. And like when she finally gets this attention from Granda, she like goes nuts over it. And I don't know, the described behavior really skeeved me out.
Well, I mean, I think that she is a predator from other stories that, like, with her like son's friend that they talk about a little bit at the end that we discussed way more in our emergency episode. But also, like, she said, "I love you" after 3 weeks, and like, it's just a weird thing to say to someone half your age with massive power imbalance when you're in a. It's a weird thing. All of it's strange.
Yeah. And I mean, like, some of the weird stuff with the kids, too, like,
Oh,
they
I feel
introduced
really bad.
Giancarlo to their kids, right?
Yeah. And, also she sleeps with him in the kids' beds.
In their beds, yeah. That's
no,
a fetish. That's you don't do that on accident.
No.
they made jokes about like him being their stepkid. It's literally a porn genre. Like, I don't know what that's the one it's like. It's the what? It's like they were just going through the tabs up in the right-hand corner to hit them all.
They're like, can we get bingo?
They were like, we got MILF, we got pool boy, we've got cuckoldry. Like, it's so weird. And I want to stress, and I think everyone who would ever listen to this podcast would know this, the reason that, other than the insanely weird power balance stuff, I don't give a shit about the kinky stuff. It's when it's coupled with the idea of conservative values that are being pushed by these individuals. Everyone who listens to this knows this. I just want to touch on it. That it's not a great thing that if you're saying, one man, one woman for life, and then you're getting drunk all of the time and standing creepily in the corner masturbating while your partner's having sex. I don't know.
Right. And I do think like the drunk part is an interesting little wrinkle that we learned about Falwell. And I don't know, if you watch that 2016 RNC speech, I don't think anyone's shocked that this is a man that has a relationship with tequila that I can only call strained.
He drinks like fucking Churchill. They said he walked around with water bottles filled with half water, half vodka. No, tequila, sorry. I want to get the drinking choice right. The parts that the insane shit that Falwell did that I wanted to touch on was that when they had, I think this was in Florida, and they had Giancarlo come to visit them for a second time, and it was in one hotel room, and it was Giancarlo and Becky sleeping on the bed, and Falwell sleeping in the floor next to him. It's just so weird.
Right. I mean, again, this isn't... It is, if this is your fetish, it is kind of funny. You kind of have to admit that. Listen, I'm happy for you. I'm happy this does it for you, but it is extremely funny that you're like, I love it when I'm made to sleep on the floor when somebody else bones my wife. That's good comedy. But it's especially funny when it's fucking Jerry Falwell, who is just historically a piece of shit. Giancarlo at one point, when he realizes that they're the Falwells, he looks up, who Jerry Falwell Sr. was. And at some point he is talking to Jerry Falwell Jr. and he's like, hey, your dad was a piece of shit. And, Falwell's like, oh, well, I'm not like my dad. And it's like, I suppose you're not, in that you are into some weird, hypocritical, not weird, but very hypocritical sexual practices. But it is just they describe the Falwell dynasty very clearly in this documentary and show how the direct line from Focus on the Family to Liberty University, how Jerry Falwell Jr. becomes this huge deal. He becomes the president, who is kind of a renegade, and talks about how his wife is so hot, and he has all these weird convocation, right? They make them go to convocation 3 times a week or whatever, which is this weird religious slash I don't know if you all have ever been to those mega churches where it's mostly a concert, but it's also Jesus themed, but it's that, but in Liberty University, right? But we see the kind of person that Falwell Jr. is, and it is just like his father, but without the, actual strict, adherence to religious code, right? Hence the drinking problems, hence the, cheating, or not cheating, but, cuckoldry, which all comes down...
him, it was cheating.
I mean, I don't know, right? Right, we talked about this.
I'm making a joke at the fact that when it all went bad... Sorry, when it all goes bad, right. He's like, "Oh, I'd rather lie and throw my wife under the bus and say that she cheated on me than I would to admit I think it's hot that 2 people that I watch them have sex." Which to me is even more embarrassing than being into cuckoldry. That is way more embarrassing.
It's way worse, right? Listen, whatever is consensual and healthy between adults, that's good for you. But the fact that you're and then this thing that really did it for me, that was on my wife. Oh, she's so bad. Becky, say sorry in the Washington Examiner. Oh, you're sorry, aren't you, Becky? What a fucking prick. It reminds me of what happened with what was the other doc we watched with the other couple, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, right? When Jim Baker makes her, go on stage and be like, hey, give me money so that way I can be sorry. It's just the same horse shit.
Yeah, and it's almost like there's a trend on how these men treat women.
Weird like that. There is one note that I have. I don't remember this, but Josh, you watched this recently, so you can tell me. Um, what'd you think about the Liberty University rap? Let me see this line. 154 students. Man, how could they manage? Now we the biggest Christian university on the planet. Um, so that's how'd you feel about that?
I feel like I wanna. I need the Aaron Liberty rap album like instantly, and I don't know how much money it would require, but I'll find a way. I'll sell one of my kidneys to get that full EP.
Not worth it. Yeah, it's just they show this clip of like how much Liberty University is just a big, corporation. Like a lot of universities are like this, where it's just like they largely exist to make money. Like we're none of us are, we are all going to colleges that exist for profit, despite that they don't say that. But like Liberty University is especially egregious when they have this stupid rap promo.
Listen, I went to Koch brothers University. It's like I understand the issue of like founders and whatnot. I do need to. This documentary is very interesting. I don't think it's good. For a couple choices that it makes, and one of those that I think I'm going to put in the category is Giancarlo goes to Liberty, and he was like, I'm from Florida, where it's like a melting pot and multiple groups, and he was like, there are no black students. And I was like, the like phrasing of that is very interesting because he could have said there's a lot of white students, but then he specifically said there were not a lot of black students, and then it went to a black and white hard cut to Martin Luther King, "I Have a Dream." And I understand that they were moving in to discuss the Jerry Falwell Sr.'s vehement fight against the end of segregation and the fact that he loved segregation. And I think that's an awesome thing to put in the documentary. Wild smash cut. Absolutely wild smash cut.
Yeah, I don't know that that bothered me as much just because it felt like this is kind of their segue into talking about it. And I was worried that they were not going to talk about, sins of the father so much.
It is great that they dedicate, like, they really took that man to fucking task.
Yeah, I mean, they also talk about the fact that, like, that's how we get Ronald Reagan, right? We this is me learning this is a very integral part of Bible Boys as a podcast history, where Michael teaches me about why evangelicals start going against abortion, but like, Jerry Falwell Sr. is very instrumental in that fight, and they talk about that. They talk about how this is, segregation is what eventually gets them into politics, and now we have the hellscape we live in today. But like another thing that they brought up during the doc that I, was like astonished by at Liberty University was the ways in which they cover their moral code. They try to make it out to be a Christian thing, but it's actually just like a way to extract more wealth out of people. Like
Hmm.
they just fine you for doing things that they don't like, which is I hate them so much. They suck so bad.
Little fun fact about me. When I was looking at what college I wanted to go to, I almost went to Lynchburg University, which is a very, very tiny private university in that same town. And one of my good friends from high school went there, and apparently Liberty refers to Lynchburg University as the heathens on the hill. So if you want to know about the student body, that should give you a good idea. It's also important to note with that like honor code and having to pay. This is like $300 if you drink. It was also used to keep sexual assault victims quiet, and it was also used as a like tool to attack women. So very cool and awesome of Jerry Falwell to do that while getting incredibly drunk constantly.
Yeah, just like the worst kind of hypocrite imaginable. Like, just garbage person.
I also do love the connection that was drawn, that was trying. I don't know if this was the documentary's goal, but I left it thinking this, that someone could make the argument. I probably disagree with it, but you could make a decent argument that this weird love affair got Trump elected as president.
The doc makes that argument, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
with the idea of because what's the dude's name that got the dirt? I always forget.
is this
Forget his last name.
Fernandez or Michael Cohen?
Cohen.
Okay.
So Cohen helped the Falwell get out of a like blackmail situation with some of Giancarlo's old friends from Florida, and then used that blackmail to get Falwell to support Trump, and that's why Trump was able to get the evangelical side group on his side, and that's why he became president. And that was the argument that they were going with.
And I'm just going to be honest, I think that gives a lot more credit maybe to evangelical leaders than should be given. I think they were going to support Donald Trump no matter what.
Yeah.
Doc also, I think, was hinting that the fall of Falwell allowed Joseph Biden to become president, which is I love mocking Falwell. It is one of my rights as an ex evangelical. Not a ton of evangelicals know him like off cuff that makes that big of a difference. Like he's a huge famous guy, but it's not like it's not the same. It's not the level of devotion that I think they were trying to imply.
Right.
No, but you know what? Maybe I'm turning on this, and it's actually all a part of God's plan so that we could get the Dark Brandon timeline that we might be heading towards.
Okay, I see a lot of memes about Dark Brandon, but what is Dark? Is this a QAnon thing?
No, it's the opposite.
Aaron, this meme
It's
is
the
so
opposite.
old. This joke has gone around for me already.
I've seen pictures of Joe Biden with red eyes, and I know that's Dark Brandon, but like, what is it? What is the ideology behind it?
So Dark Brandon is started by people like us.
Ah, I see.
It's people who, whenever Joe Biden does something that's actually like iconic or like the best thing, like the Inflation Reduction Act was a big like Dark Brandon moment. That's when they say it's Dark Brandon and he's like gonna take down basically like the QAnon people. And the whole idea is it's a meme that we've created on the internet, like as relatively young people on the internet who are saying like, actually, it's great when Joe Biden does these kind of lefty things. And instead of, hiding behind that, we should meme him too. And like, we shouldn't let the right own memeing politicians. So we're going to meme every cool thing Joe Biden does as Dark Brandon. So Dark Brandon is my president. And like things like student loan cancellation, that's Dark Brandon, and that's
Okay.
my president, and I'm happy to have voted for him.
There is also
Thank
this.
you.
We're spending more time on this than I thought we would, but I love it. There is this also like accidental stumbling into like the idea of how like some Star Wars fans say that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. That is kind of what Joe Biden is doing from time to like all of his little folk things are a secret. The big one is when gas prices were really high. He tweeted up. He was like, listen here, folks, gas prices are too high. And then they went down the next day, and everyone's like, he did it for Brandon. It's the secret.
That's Dark Brandon.
Excellent. All the strings are being pulled by Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and Dark Brandon is their culmination. Okay, that's good. I believe. I'll add that to my belief system. Sure.
Dark Brandon taught me how to vote 3 times.
Excellent. Awesome.
I hope we turn all of our audience into Dark Brandon believers.
There's a couple of weird things I noted at the end of the doc, because like at the end of the doc I just started getting sad because it was just like, Jerry got really depressed after he got blackmailed by Michael Cohen. He did get offered the Secretary of Education, which like, who's worse? What does the timeline look like when it's not Betsy DeVos and it's this dude?
Oh, I'm really thinking about it, and
because I think we actually. My opinion is that we got the worst timeline because, listen, Jerry Falwell sucks. Don't get me wrong. but like there's not a whole lot more you could do to education besides the, to make it more Christianized, right? It's like, we're already pretty much at saturation. But like Betsy
Remind me to tell you guys a
DeVos's,
story after this.
yeah, hold on, great, good. But like Betsy DeVos's brother runs a paramilitary corporation. Like that's bleaker than Jerry Falwell being Secretary of Ed to me.
I'm trying to figure out which one's more incompetent, and thankfully the answer is like yes. Of like who would be more stumbling over what is the correct thing to do. My only fear is that Jerry Falwell is at least a decent, like ran a decent business and got them out of debt, and like I don't know, if you're in debt in a Christian organization, you're not paying taxes, so like I don't know how good you got to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that either way, we were flipping coins that both said, "Oh." And also it gets rough towards the end where like Giancarlo had a rough go there at the end, and I think that is something we can all acknowledge. I found him very interesting because I did feel bad for him because he was, in my opinion, a victim of like at least like emotional manipulation, emotional abuse, like financial manipulation. I do also think he made a lot of bad decisions that led him down that route. Like
yeah.
So like I was very mixed on how I ended up with it. It's just hard when you hear someone talk about that they got so low at their point in life that like consider suicide, and
right.
I'm very happy that he went down the route of I'm just gonna fucking tear these people down, because then we get this story and we get these people can't continue doing this with their power.
Mm-hmm.
Because all these other stories start coming out and we get all of the crazy pictures of Falwell with students. And then we get the great New York guy, where there's just a picture, I don't think they should have showed it in the doc, of like a woman showing her ass
right. Yeah.
in Falwell's house.
Yeah.
And then the New York guy shows up and he goes, "There's your receipt for going to Liberty. Her parents have to see this now." And I'm like, I don't know who this dude is, and I'm so happy he keeps showing up.
Yeah, listen, knockoff Harvey Fierstein is very endearing, but like I don't know. All that stuff was a huge bummer. Right. Like there's a part where he's about to get a big job and he's like, "Oh, finally I think something's going to go right for me." And then he tells Becky Falwell about it, and then she makes some calls and gets his internship or job like just canceled because she fucking sucks. And like that's all terrible. What I thought was very interesting was like the thing that like permanently radicalized him was the summer 2020 uprisings. Which is like this man was like, "I love Donald Trump. I've been a Republican my whole life." And then all of a sudden the summer 2020 uprisings happen. He's like, oh, these people are bad. Oh no. Which like, listen, I won't deny that the uprisings had a profound effect on my political ideology and, drastically changed the way that I view the systems we live in, but like that's a much bigger shift from him being like, "Oh man, I just want to get a signed copy of Art of the Deal." Like huge leap that he decides like, you know what, this is activism, I'm gonna take these fuckers down.
Even in the beginning there's so much coaching around the like where he's like, "I was a big fan of Trump." That was before he got into politics. I'm like, dude, he was saying Obama was an illegal immigrant. Like, I don't know if you can really coach this that much. It's not
dog,
like he
you are
racist.
Cuban, you can't do this.
And then, oh my God, the documentary where he was like, "My family came from a place where a dictator took over," and just the black and white photo of Castro. Mm-hmm. It's just, there were some interesting decisions in there. It was
real weird.
Fun doc, though.
It was a fun doc.
I was looking up fun facts, and there are just very few about all of this. But there was one review I really liked from 615 Film. It's like Wall Street meets The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, right? My favorite thing that the doc ends on is the note that like when all this unravels, when he gets thrown under the bus, when the Board of Liberty is like, "All right, fuck this guy," They ban him from visiting the campus ever again. And, his parents are buried there, which means that he cannot go and visit his parents' graves. And, whatever honoring, the dead means to you, there is something, unspeakably cruel about being prevented from mourning, your ancestors in a way that I think, kind of owns when it's applied to Jerry Falwell Sr. and his son, right? Because I don't want anybody to mourn Senior, certainly, and his son was a piece of shit too, so it's awesome, great, I love this.
Two
It's
birds.
also, if I was able to find any sympathy deep within my soul, I think it goes away when Giancarlo's like, hey, your dad's a piece of shit. I don't like your dad. And Jerry Falwell's like, I'm not that guy. So it's like, you know what? You both suck. I don't know. No, I can't find that sympathy. I think it's really dope.
Yeah. Do we have any other things we want to touch on before we close this discussion?
No, I think we pretty much covered it, at least on my end.
Yeah, I think I talked about every single time the weird New York guy showed up.
Yeah, you all really just have to go and watch a teaser trailer, because that man's voice is truly melodious. But yeah,
I'm sure there's a YouTube where it just puts all of his moments on there that's 7 minutes. Watch that instead of the documentary.
Oh yeah, no, that would be a way better experience. But yeah, when we are not trying to dunk on the Falwell family, which, to be fair, we're always doing, where can we be found on the internet?
I mean, I would do this, but that's not how this podcast works.
It's been 2 months, you motherfucker. Okay, I forgot.
Literally not how the system where we have the same system every single. We're episode 70.
No, we are closer to 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we want to rate this documentary, I guess? Fucking prick.
I'm gonna give it one. He's only happy when his wife's happy, and his wife's happy when he's balls deep.
I'm gonna give this the 57th Pope Telesphorus.
I am giving this 4 out of 5 unblinking stares, because that's how this documentary made me feel.
That's very valid. Now, Josh, if I may.
Now you can, yes. Now you're allowed.
We're not fighting over whether or not we've rated our podcast. Where can we be found on the internet?
I am at Green History on Twitter, where hopefully my audio quality is slightly better.
I'm at Michael's Diamonds on Twitter.
I'm at AaronSXL on Twitter and also co-host. Twitter, in the time between our last episode and now, Twitter is completely falling apart. But you can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I do another podcast with my friend Layla, that's at MortifiedPod. If you want a Christmassy episode, we did an episode on the Lindsay Lohan Netflix vehicle Falling for Christmas, which was a fun time. And we'll probably do a Christmassy episode in the future once we get our schedules back on track. But yeah, if you thought that it was just such a hard time being away from our sweet voices that it made you cry, just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.